and welcome. We are continuing our conversation here today with Sotiris Karagiannis, our guest, AI expert, AI pioneer, and early AI entrepreneur. Exactly the right person we need to be talking to get advice about the future. And my co-founder, Agis Georgiou, the tech brain behind intelligent acceleration. And in our previous conversation, we were discussing what is holding us back, what is holding businesses back in terms of adoption and really getting ROI. And Ayush was telling us about data because I'm sure, and probably that's on your mind as well. We all talk about data, what's happening with our data, concerns about governance, concerns about sharing, concerns around AI security. But we are now want to focus on exactly what is happening with opportunity. How can we turn these challenges into opportunities? So, Agis, would you like to continue from what you were saying in the previous session about where is the opportunity hiding on the data front for businesses?
So a lot of things, of course, depend on the sector of the economy, the companies, and right. But in general, if we have a high level picture, we see that the so first of all, we have a lot of so I was having a discussion a couple of months ago with another company in the same space, and they were telling me something very interesting. So we have quite mature B2C part. So the business to consumer part, the one the big companies have created, is quite mature. Almost everyone is using it. We have a very immature B2B sector, even in big companies. So outside of the tech sector, we don't have, we have a few, but we don't have a lot of mature use cases. We're still trying to figure them out. And we have probably a lot of failed cases. And we have now basically we are in the space where we are starting to experiment with these use cases. And we see, so the successes we see now are voice agents. So we see this in call centers already. We see image use cases. So generating images or structured images or some kind of advertisement, things like that. We start seeing these kinds of advances now. We see some interesting use cases with agents where you can have access to specific tools and you can ask information. I have seen some interesting use cases that actually work. So you can ask a model to query the technical part is to have a service which performs something. And you can ask it, for example, I had this conversation with a car rental company and they were telling me they have a system, they want to, for example, have a system which automatically finds if the car has a fine in the system. So these kinds of use cases can actually be implemented. And but we are still in the, I would say, early phase. We have a lot of use cases, but mostly now we have companies mostly have chatbots at the moment. This is these are the mature use cases. It's now quite straightforward to create a chatbot, mostly what we call RAG, which basically grounds the information using the company's data. And so this is what is happening in terms of opportunity. I would say always there are two kinds of ways in new technologies, right? One option is to do what you were doing before, cheaper and faster and better, maybe. We see that in many ways. Even in programming, we can see that. So I would urge companies that have specific functions or processes to examine which ones they can make faster and cheaper. And the second part is always what can we do now that we could not do before? And this is where it comes with these. I explained some already: vision, language, other use cases as well. But in the future, we expect to see more. So I would say this is where the opportunity lies. So of course, I can give you a lot more, right? But let's examine one use case, which is research. So if you want to do research online, it's now easier to do it at scale. For example, check for specific sources, have models. There is, however, one notable downside to all of this that you have to have in mind is that most of our models are not always 100% correct. So they are useful for use cases where it's not necessary to be 100% correct. There are always ways to ground that, of course, but this is the general. So it's good for news, for example, but it's not good for surgery at this moment. And that's where you have to judge the use case. But to just wrap it up, or some the previous conversation, I would say we in the next few months we will see and we will start seeing successful use cases in B2B use cases. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So Teres, just before we came live, we were talking a little bit. What is the mindset shift in terms of the removing the blockages that are there around data? And you had a couple of interesting points around the legal aspect, because a lot of people are scared. My goodness, what's going to happen? Am I going to get sued? Then what is the role of the government? So two questions really. So where are you on this? What's your thinking?
Well, I like talking with examples sometimes because it's easier for people to understand. Imagine a small industry, okay, not a big industry, and imagine that they have systems in there for ERP and production, and they also have sensors in their machines, and they have a lot of data. Okay, that's 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 their data. That's meaningless to anybody else. They collect a lot of data, and what do they do with them? Sometimes they lose them, or they just store them, but they don't know what to do with them. Now, imagine about energy efficiency, for example. Imagine about sustainability, the legal aspect of sustainability, that they are obliged to do certain things until 2030 or whatever, or 40. Now, with this data, they can actually use systems that are proprietary in their own sense because they're using energy data or sensor data, but they can earn a lot of money out of those data because they can see abnormal behavior. They can see when their machines are going to fail. They can understand, they can foresee things before they happen. And the difference in that size with a very unstable, let's say, energy economy in Europe is that they're going to save maybe millions of euros or pounds in terms of foreseeing what's going to happen. This is a very crucial information that people don't understand that they can do that. We're talking about smart factories, we're talking about AI or data factories, but the true thing is that people sometimes have a lot of data, they don't know what to do, they're throwing it away. Now, the legal aspects, of course, when you're working in the legal profession, your interest is to actually sell your services, okay? And so, okay, it needs a balance. How far can we go with the fear? How far can we go with the right use of data? I think that we've already been there. We've seen the GDPR. I think that it was a hype about GDPR. There's going to be a lot of commerce are going to be fined and blah blah blah. But it didn't happen. So still, whoever uses data unlawfully still uses it. So I don't necessarily agree with all the fear mongering out there, but I say, okay, have a strategy about that, have to understand what you can share, what not. Use your internal system sometimes maybe buy your own service if you're doing your own models or whatever to use it internally, but do it. Don't wait for that. Okay.
Yes, yes, I agree about the fear mongering, and I find that psychologically we tend to be scared before we jump in. It's the before bit, not understanding, not having experienced it.
It's
Uh,
human, the
It's
unknown.
it's human nature. Exactly. Exactly. It's human nature. So our call to action here is to start having a proper conversation rather than having this emotional block. This is
Have a
no.
strategy. Have a strategy. Have a strategy. Someone to actually help you to have a strategy. Be open minded and also open to what you need. What's your problems?
And the potential, because when you have people who are a couple of steps removed from the company, the benefit is they're not emotionally attached, and they can be a lot more objective to say that there could be normally what I find in marketing as well, sometimes people leave money on the table, and it's so obvious to me when I see it. We all have blind spots. I mean, that is human nature. So I think if we are saying a core message to business leaders is don't be scared of data. Whether you think you have a lot or you don't think you have enough, or you don't think it's good quality or not, or whether you're scared about governance, regulation, the legal aspect, you are probably, as you said in the previous video, so there's you are probably estimating the risks there, and that's our call. Now, in terms of where the opportunity is, I think we talked about generally two top level opportunities. The one is in productivity, creating workflows, driving efficiencies. And the other potential, which I think is massive, and that's what we're discussing now as well, is the innovation. How can you develop potentially new things? How can you do what already doing differently? How can you serve your customers differently in a better way? And the underpinning objective, of course, is to increase competitive advantage, because that's the problem with the companies that are staying behind. Would you to explore this a bit further, Sotiris?
Yeah, I think reach more people. The internet was the first step to reach more people outside your local deals, being global. Now there's an opportunity to reach more people through those systems. So also developing systems that are agentic or they are extensions of in the app stores of OpenAI or Google or Microsoft or whoever sells the core components of that. It's very interesting because it was not there before. Okay, so developing some kind of agents or putting them out there in collaboration with other systems may be small, but they will bring you more opportunities. And imagine that you can leave your agents to go out and find you new customers. You could not do that with the internet. It was if you had a good page, they had to come to you with SEO and stuff. But now agents can discover your new customers out there. It's amazing. It's a different opportunity.
Yes, it's this what you just said is magic to people's ears about finding clients. And what are your thoughts on this, Ayes?
So first of all, I would like to get back to the previous one. And so when we improve a process, so based on what I'm seeing already, the ratio of the cost to opportunity in a sense, right? So the cost of the previous process to the cost of the new one is about 1 to 10. So if you don't automate fast enough, you're going to operate at 10 times more cost than your competition that will do. And we are already seeing that, especially in cases where you have simple, repetitive work that can be automated. So imagine you have a report, for example, that someone can create, or some kind of image or media assets, right? Not everything is automatable, and not all the process is automatable. But let's imagine that, and you have 1,000 hours, right, of that every year. Imagine cutting the cost by a factor of 10. So this will be huge for the operating costs of the business. So don't disregard these parts. Is also we are seeing that in some use cases it's becoming important. So, and part two is opportunity in general, right? So a good example I have in mind is we are there are cases where maybe we have some opportunities for democratization in a way. So let's imagine, for example, that now we are going to shop using AI, right? So it can have access to multiple vendors as well. So even more than before. So before we tended to concentrate on some big vendors, mostly because it was easier to shop through them. Then we had some kind of marketplaces. And now with AI, it's possible that you will be able to integrate your product in a layer of an AI somewhere, and then access more people if you can compete on cost or in some other way. So, and this chapter I just talked about is basically the future of search. In general, is called the future of search in the AI era, because now we're not searching through, let's say, Google or whichever engine, we will be searching through AI. So a lot of things, including e-commerce in that case, will change. Also, the way you present your company will change because the information are going to be gathered from the AI. So you will want to optimize the way AI processes this information. So this alone is a huge industry and is going to present a lot of opportunity.
Thank you. A couple of quick questions before we wrap it up. Are we saying then that we are going to see the future of business is a company that is small and global, regardless of where it's actually based? Are we saying that not quite? I don't want to use the word unicorns, but small mighty teams with a lot of AI agents fully integrated? Is that the future, that it can operate from anywhere?
Can I ask?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. I mean, if you're producing a product and you don't have the logistics or the others, even if you have beautiful, smart agents selling all over the place, you have to deliver. So it's good on digital things. It's not so good into logistics or real estate or whatever that is bound by an upper limit. So knowledge, services, whatever can be digitized, yes, but the natural things, okay, you're finding more customers, but you have to deliver. So not necessarily just by using agents, they're not gonna fix your production problems.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. On the services side, though, you can do it, can't you?
On the services side, there's an amazing possibility and opportunity to actually, I would say, Agis knows about that because we talked about this earlier. You can produce knowledge or services that can actually work for you 24 hours a day, find you new customers, and deliver your services without you being awake or even being alive. So, yeah, yeah, it is that.
It is
And it's,
possible. I
yeah,
know we are sort of smiling, but it is possible. And I have a suspicion that we might be nearer than we may think. I think the difficulty is in imagining it at the moment. And one last quick question is about sectors. Do you notice that certain sectors seem to have adopted AI faster and they're progressing, and some others which are a little bit holding back? And is there a good reason?
I just wanna.
Oh, it's my turn now. So that's a good question. I think I think a lot of sectors. I think at the moment, all sectors are close. I already said, right? The big tech companies and some smaller tech companies, they're far ahead, but most of the others, in my perception, are in the starting point, more or less. But I think this will change soon. There are some industries which we expect that have a faster adoption, especially everything that has to do with services that is performed online or has a lot of digital footprint. They will have to do something. And there will be other industries that more most probably will stay a bit behind, will lag, or they have the ability to lag. And these are the ones that are not affected that much, for example, or are very
Um,
late. And of course, yeah.
I think also that the public sector, which is not a private, the public sector holds a lot of information about everything. Imagine they hold information about your taxes, your revenues, your company, your health records. And so the public sector is, I think, the first that will try to use this information for better good, I think, and I suppose. But they're easier to deliver because they have this information already at a scale. So, for example, in cities, you asked me earlier what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the fixing the cities for being safer with AI and data. There's data out there, open data and closed data, but there's data out there that can be collected easily without having any personal kind of information in there, anonymous information that can make the cities safer from what they are right now. And that's all over the world. So I'm excited about those big things. And I think that it's time now. I mean, 10 years or 5 years ago, you would spend millions or even billions to do that. Now it's not the same. It's so much cheaper because the data is out there and the AI can actually has already gathered it, and it's easier to gather it and process it. So you see companies, for example, Palantir, it's a company that also it's kind of polarized opinions around the globe, but it is gathering data because it serves the public sector there. And they have a lot of data, which is interesting.
Yeah, that would be a massive benefit to all of us, actually. So that leads me quite nicely as we're wrapping this session up for you to let us know a little bit more about your new AI venture, which is all about safety. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Sotiris?
Well, it's not yet a venture, but it's a passion of mine that I've been talking about this since 2016. But now it's possible to have safer cities for traveling, for staying, for navigating the city, because we have all this data that I told you about. And that's why I insist on having public data, because you can do things, you can do great things with data that is already there. It's published, it's public, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So yeah, this is something that I'm pretty excited about, making cities safer for women initially and for everybody later on with data and AI.
That's very exciting. And you said the magic phrase there, magic to my ears. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you just have to introduce AI to it. And that's what we are here to do. So thank you very much, both of you, today. Sotiris, I'm sure we will be talking to you as we go into 2026 and keeping up to date with the bigger developments. Thank you for being here. Agis, thank you. We shall talk later. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.